Thank you so much for joining us today, and good morning. I'm Liz Ernst, State Director for Protect Our Care Georgia. In late December, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled in favor of the Trump administration and the Republicans in Texas versus United States, a lawsuit to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. The lawsuit is a devastating blow to Georgians, particularly women, who could lose our protection made possible by the Affordable Care Act, and our access to quality, affordable health insurance is in jeopardy. This decision brings Attorney General Chris Carr and Republicans' lawsuit one step closer to ripping health care coverage away from hundreds of thousands of Georgians. And now we have a new senator here in Georgia, Kelly Loeffler, a political outsider and Georgia's first female senator in almost 100 years, who claims to stand with hardworking Georgians and protecting the innocent. Well, one of the first things that Senator Loeffler can do to protect the care of these hardworking Georgians, especially women, is to come out strongly against the Texas lawsuit to eliminate the Affordable Care Act. We're here today with health care advocates and legislators to discuss this disastrous decision and what it means for health care and the well-being of Georgians' women. So I'd first like to welcome Senator Jen Jordan, who represents the Senate District 6, which includes Cobb and Fulton counties. And since being elected in 2017, she's been a fierce advocate for the health care rights of women. And when she's not here fighting for us, she's a trial attorney working on complex civil cases. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank y'all. First of all, this lawsuit is the centerpiece of Republicans' basic no health care agenda. It's about kicking people off so they don't have coverage, raising the cost of health care while taking away protections for women, promising all the while to just trust them, when for years, when Republicans were in charge of both the House and the Senate at the federal level, they did nothing except undermine the protections of the ACA, including the protections for those with pre-existing conditions and protections that allow children to stay on their parents' health plans until the age of 26. Every Georgia Republican, including Senator Loeffler, who fails to denounce this lawsuit, owns its consequences and needs to explain to their constituents why they support taking away their health care and raising their cost. What is particularly concerning is that the Georgia Republicans have inserted the state of Georgia into this Texas lawsuit. And the reason it was filed in Texas in the first place was because they were looking for a friendly judge. So the state of Georgia is actually a party to this lawsuit, a lawsuit that just seeks to undermine the ACA and its protections. Healthcare is and remains a top issue for voters in 2020. And as an attorney, a state senator, and a Georgian, frankly, I'm appalled. The ACA has been a lifesaver for many Georgia women. It's allowed small business owners like myself and entrepreneurs to start businesses because they could actually have access to insurance. I could not have started my law firm 5 years ago without the ACA. And women cannot afford to go back to the time before the ACA. Before the ACA, insurance companies would charge women up to 50% more than men for the same coverage. Essentially, being a woman of childbearing age was effectively a pre-existing condition. Before the ACA, 1 in 5 women reported postponing or going without preventive care due to cost. And I know how important preventive care is because my mother almost died from uterine cancer because she did not have health insurance and couldn't afford to go to a doctor for years. And so what I say is, Senator Kelly Loeffler, do what your male Republican colleagues have failed to do year after year. Do something to help the people of this state. Reject this lawsuit and urge the Supreme Court to take action immediately. Because if you don't, the people of this state eventually will.
Thank you, Senator. Now I would like to call up Representative Pat Gardner, who represents the District 57 and currently serves on the Appropriation Subcommittee on Health. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. If the ACA is overturned, key protections for women will be ripped away overnight. The ACA made it illegal for women to be discriminated against in healthcare settings. The ACA provided essential protections for breastfeeding, including workplace standards and access to breast pumps with no out-of-pocket costs. If the Affordable Care Act is completely destroyed, protections like pre-existing conditions in Georgia will never have if it is destroyed, Georgia will never have the opportunity to expand Medicaid to the more than 500,000 people who desperately need health care in our state, and these are our most vulnerable citizens. So I, too, appeal to our new woman senator, Senator Loeffler. Having served on the board of Grady Hospital and also on the board of a prominent mental health facility in Georgia, you know as well as I do the importance of ensuring women have access to quality health insurance no matter their financial circumstances. Please, Senator Loeffler, stand up for women. Reject this lawsuit and ensure that all of your constituents have access to a doctor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Before I call Jara Cotton, just wanted to see if Senator Orrock or Senator Williams wanted to make some remarks.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm pleased to join you along with other women leaders from the House and Senate, calling on our new U.S. Senator, Kelly Loeffler, to do the right thing. As you've heard in other remarks, we know what's the right thing to do. The people across Georgia and the people across the United States spoke out when the efforts were made to undermine the Affordable Care Act on the federal level. And they said, don't take away our protections. Protect the pre-existing condition clause. And we heard the lead politicians here in the state say, oh, we're protecting that clause. We're gonna keep pre-existing conditions in health policy, federally and at the state level. At the same time, they were over here connected up with this Texas case, which would undermine and outlaw pre-existing conditions, would strip it out of the Affordable Care Act, would wreck the Affordable Care Act. So don't watch what they say, watch what they do. And it is absolutely critical that our new senator in Washington hear the pleas of Georgia families to do the right thing and protect women's access to coverage, protect women's access to having the health care insurance that they must have to have healthy families, healthy babies, and a bright future for all Georgians. And you know, when we have 500,000 people in Georgia uninsured and not covered because of this state's leadership's failure to expand Medicaid, when we have that, all of the folks with insurance are paying more on your premium. They estimate $1,100 a year per family that we pay on our insurance premium in order to, in some way, provide a fragile safety net for all those uninsured people. So the message is clear. We say to our U.S. Senator, do the right thing, stand up for women, stand up for common sense health care, and protect the Affordable Care Act and its provisions that make it possible for women to have access. And we need to expand that access. Thank you very much. I hope that Georgians across the state that can hear our voices today will pick up that telephone or get on that email and send off a message to Senator Kelly Loeffler. Do the right thing. Protect the Affordable Care Act. Protect women's access to health care.
Great. Thank you so much, Senator Orrick. Now I'd like to call Jara Cotton, who is a young woman from Powder Springs, Georgia, who is currently a freshman at Harvard College in Boston. As a young adult, she is covered under her parents' health insurance, a protection made possible by the Affordable Care Act. Jara, thanks so much for being here today.
Hello, everyone. Hello. As Ms. Liz said, I was diagnosed with lupus recently. Lupus is a disease that primarily affects women of childbearing age, and I myself was diagnosed just last year when I was 17 years old. So as I've been adjusting to college and that transitional period in my life, I have also had to deal with all kinds of health issues. Without the Affordable Care Act, I would not have health insurance today. I am currently covered under my parents' insurance, and I will be so until I'm 26. But even beyond that, the Affordable Care Act is what has given me the wherewithal to know that when I am 26, I will be able to find my own insurance. The Affordable Care Act is the reason that people with pre-existing conditions, just like myself, are able to pursue things that they want to pursue, just because they have that health insurance and they have that safety net. The Affordable Care Act is the reason for I've been able to go to Harvard in the first place. I'm without my parents. I am gone, but they have the safety net to know that I am covered and I am able to do and I will be safe. The Affordable Care Act is something that many Georgians cannot do without, and without it, the sickest among us will not be able to live their lives. The people who need health care the most will be without, and that is nonsensical. Thank you.
Well done.
It's JARAH, and cotton is COTTON.
Thanks so much, Jara. Really appreciate you being here today and sharing your story, and good luck with the next semester coming up here soon. And lastly, I'd like to bring up a fierce advocate for women's health care. Laura Simmons is the state director for NARAL Pro-Choice Georgia. And NARAL Pro-Choice Georgia is the grassroots pro-choice advocacy organization fighting for reproductive freedom for all. Laura, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. We've heard a lot today about how critical the ACA has been for women's health care. And it's particularly crucial when it comes to access to affordable contraceptive care. Because of the ACA, 60 million women now have access to birth control with no out-of-pocket expenses. That means that the ACA has saved money for women and families. In 2013, it saved $1.4 billion on birth control pills alone. We are in a state that is facing a healthcare crisis. That is particularly true when it comes to reproductive health. We have the worst maternal mortality rates in the country, which means that women are dying unnecessarily for preventable healthcare crises. We need to be focusing on how to increase access to healthcare, not chip away at that access. And while we want to see Senator Loeffler take a step in favor of the ACA, her first week in D.C. has not given us much hope. When it comes to the choices that she has made and the things that she has prioritized, she has aligned herself with an extreme anti-choice agenda that is seeking to overturn Roe v. Wade. That is placing politics in between a woman and her doctor. Just this month, we've seen over 200 members of Congress sign a brief to the Supreme Court calling on them to overturn Roe v. Wade. And that is who we are currently seeing our new senator align herself with, which is wildly out of step with Georgia voters. Time and time again, we see after poll that 7 in 10 Georgians want to make sure that access to safe and legal abortion remains available to our citizens. That's true across all parties. The majority across all parties believe in a woman's right to choose. We know that everyone should have the ability to decide for themselves if, when, and how to raise a family. We know that Georgians deserve elected officials who will truly fight for women and families, which means protecting this fundamental freedom and standing with Georgia voters. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laura. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for being here today, and all those on Facebook Live listening in. Make no mistake, as we've shared today, This lawsuit is the Republican health care plan.
That's right.
Overturning our health care law means putting all the progress that we've made for women's health care through the Affordable Care Act that we've discussed today at risk. We need our leaders to stand up for women's health care. So, Senator Loeffler, the women of Georgia want to know, will you stand with Purdue and Trump and the Republican Party that wants to take away health care from hardworking Georgians who are dependent on existing health care protections? Do you want to make it harder for Georgians to access care? We want to know if Senator Loeffler wants to make it harder for young people who are figuring out their path in life to access care. People like Jara here. If Senator Loeffler wants to protect health care for people in Georgia, for those hardworking Georgians, then she must reject the Texas lawsuit and Trump's assault on our health care. We really appreciate you being here today. I'd like to make our speakers available for press if anyone would like to speak with anyone. Thank you so much.
Tell the truth.
No question.
Anybody
No,
have
I've
any
got a-
questions?
I've got a question.
Yeah.
Perhaps for Senator Williams and perhaps Senator Jordan. You know very well that Senator Loeffler has identified very strongly with the administration. She's worried about a right-wing challenge in the election. She's with Ivanka Trump this morning. How much of a box are you trying to put her in? If that's, I mean, that's one way to put it anyway. What are your expectations with regard to her willingness to actually stray from sort of the orthodoxy that she's already kind of set herself up with? If you wouldn't mind, step up there and address your remarks that way rather than this way.
Hi, I am State Senator Nikema Williams, representing Senate District 39. And to answer your question, I'm not trying to put Senator Loeffler in a box at all. And I expect any elected official who has taken the oath of office to stand with their people that they represent, regardless of partisanship, regardless of where they live. I represent a district that is mixed income, mixed race, and mixed partisanship. And I represent all of my constituents. And that's what I expect any elected official to do. We are in a state where we still have 79 counties without an OBGYN, and to think that we have a U.S. Senator who is not trying to expand access, a woman who is representing this entire state in the U.S. Senate and not trying to expand access to get more women care is troublesome. And I want a U.S. Senator that is going to stand for all Georgians, expand health care, and get people the care that they need, because that's not partisan at all.
All right. You're here.
So let's be clear, we're not trying to put her in a box. We have no idea what she believes except for little sheets that are handed out to the press. They've limited press access. She won't talk to anybody unless questions are cleared. She is the United States Senator from Georgia, and we don't even know if she supports the Affordable Care Act or not. And so I don't think it's about putting somebody in a box. It's a question that she needs to answer because we need to know before November comes.
Do you have any illusions that she might split with Trump on this issue?
Look, I always have hope, especially when it comes to smart women, but she needs to answer the question.
Senator Jordan, what about the conversations with Senator Purdue's office? How have those gone in this issue so far?
Look, the Republicans have been in lockstep from day one in terms of trying to dismantle the Affordable Care Act. And instead of actually working on a solution or something that they can bring to the voters or to the American people, all they have done is just chip away, chip away, chip away. Okay. But let's be clear that the ACA has provided care to millions of people with pre-existing condition. Type 1 diabetics, type 2 diabetics in this state, people with heart disease, any kind of issues, right, Heck, probably all of us in this room have a pre-existing condition at this point, and nobody wants to go back. So we know that they don't have a solution, and all they want to do is get this struck down. And so what we need to do is be as clear as possible to the people of this state as to exactly what's happened, because like what was said, it's not about what they're saying in the press or what they're telling voters. You need to look at exactly what they're doing. And when they drug the state of Georgia into a lawsuit whose entire intent was to shut it down, shut the ACA down and say it's unconstitutional, they made very clear where they stand. So we just need to know about our current U.S. Senator to know where she stands.
I'd like to comment, too, on the fact that we have seen this woman, who is a very smart woman, has served on the board of Grady Healthcare System. She has also served on the board of a prominent mental health provider in Georgia, in the Atlanta area. So she has to have heard the stories of the women who need these kinds of services. She has to have heard the stories of people with mental illness who, if the ACA is destroyed, that's one of the services they'll make optional. Whoever thinks they're going to get mental illness? I really encourage her to go back to what she has learned from being on these boards and pay attention to what destroying the Affordable Care Act will do for all of us.
Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.